Hey everybody, this is Chris Sussman, otherwise known as the Barbecue Buddha, and I'm here with another Wednesday edition of my YouTube recipe videos. Today we're going to do something different, totally different. First of all, it's raining outside. It's gray and cloudy, the lighting's terrible, so I'm not going to cook this recipe on my grills, on my big green eggs. Everything you see here is going to be done in the kitchen and on my stove. But the other thing is, I'm doing a dessert. Self-admittedly, like most of those cooking competition shows you see, I am deficient in making desserts. And so one of the commitments I have to you and mostly to myself is to teach myself how to do desserts. Baking, dessert making, everything is usually Mrs. Buddha's wheelhouse. But for today, I am going to make something special. And that is my mother's pecan pie. When I was growing up, that pecan pie was what I would look forward to every Thanksgiving. Forget pumpkin pie, forget apple pie. I wanted my mom's pecan pie. But it doesn't end there. This pecan pie actually comes from my mother's cookbook. This is one of my favorite gifts I've ever received in my life. When I was first dating my wife, Mrs. Buddha, she worked with my sister, who's the historian of our family, to get a copy of my mother's cookbook and send it away to one of those places to turn it into a book. So as you see here, Mom's Favorite Recipes, Christmas 2008, you could see all of her recipes that are handwritten in my mom, who's since passed away, in my mom's handwriting. This is a very touching gift, something that makes me very happy and very proud. It connects me to Mrs. Buddha and to my mom and to food, which are three of my favorite things. We are going to make my mom's pecan pie. But because I'm so connected via this cookbook and the recipes to Mrs. Buddha, my wife, I'm going to add in a new element. For this pecan pie, we're going to turn it into a derby pie. If you don't know by now, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. My wife is from Louisville, Kentucky. And the thing that makes pecan pie derby pie are the chocolate chips and a little bit of bourbon. So we're going to spice up my mom's recipe with a couple of elements to turn this into a local Louisvillian favorite. So stay tuned. We're going to cook this up. I'm going to show you how to do it. And this recipe will be one of your favorites too. I guarantee it. And we could talk about how you could do this on the big green egg. This very first part that we have on the stovetop, you could do on a Mini Max. And then the other part, you could put it in indirect for $3.50 for the 45 minutes or whatever it's going to take to bake this pie. But until then, follow along. We're going to start the process now. I'll give you a recipe flyover and we'll go from here. Thanks everybody. Keep watching. All right, so you can see here you have dark karo syrup, sugar, butter, eggs, the pecans, and here comes the derby pie aspect. You've got chocolate chips and some bourbon, vanilla extract, and salt. That's the secret ingredient of 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 tablespoon of flour. You'll know more about that in a bit, in the pie shell. So we're gonna put all this together and turn it into Mom's delicious pecan pie turned to the derby pie in honor of Mrs. Buddha. All right, everybody, we are gonna get this going. So first I'm gonna turn my induction stovetop on and we're gonna turn it to medium heat. First thing I'm gonna do is add this dark karo syrup to the saucepan. And if that wasn't enough sweetness for you, we're gonna add sugar, white sugar. I'm gonna mix this in. You can see it's all coming together, turning into a blonde, almost looks like caramel. And we're gonna bring that up to a low boil. We just want it to be simmering. Meanwhile, I'm gonna beat 3 eggs into this bowl right here. And while that is coming up to a low boil, we're just gonna beat these eggs. We're gonna set this to the side and wait for this to come up to a low boil. Starting to see little bubbles form here. You can tell this is starting to come up to temp. The karo syrup and the sugar are melting together nicely. You don't want it to burn. Burning sugar or that syrup will leave a very acrid, acidic flavor, which last I checked isn't great for any dessert at all. Smells like Thanksgiving. Think of those holidays where you have that smell permeating the house as you're waiting for dinner. So you can skip over all the turkey and green beans and get right to this pie. I'm saying that's what I did, but maybe what I did. You can see that a little bit. Those bubbles are forming. See, it's down to a light boil. Give it just one more minute. Now I'm gonna add the butter to this karo syrup and sugar mixture. We're gonna take this off the heat. You can see that foaming up. That's exactly what you want it to look like. Now you wanna just stir. All right, now I'm gonna take that buttery, syrupy mixture and I'm just gonna pour this into the bowl with those 3 beaten eggs. As I pour that in the bowl, I'm gonna stir to incorporate the eggs. All right, people, look at that. It's beautiful. It's mixed together, it's come together. Looks exactly like it should. Now is where the fun begins. This is where we start to add our flavors. So the first thing is I've got some bourbon, about 2 shots of bourbon, 2 ounces of bourbon. I've got some chocolate chips, and no pecan pie would be worth its weight in gold without pecans. These are pecan halves. Got some vanilla extract and a teeny bit of salt. We're gonna mix all of this together. And there you go. Everything is set up. So now it's just putting it all together. So let's do that. We're gonna set this to the side. And we're gonna get our pie dough ready. For this recipe, my mom did not have a recipe for pie dough. So we're gonna use pre-made pie dough. And also, Mrs. Buddha learned something from my mother's cookbook, and that is the secret I'm gonna show you as soon as I lay this pie dough into the dish. I'm gonna work that down, stretch it out a little bit so it gets to the top. And then I'm fluting. Mrs. Buddha taught me this is fluting. I'm a guy and probably not a good fluter, so this is gonna look sort of like a guy did this. So forgive me. They call me Barbecue Buddha, not Baking Buddha, and that's for good reason. But we'll see. We'll pinch these over. We'll flute. I'm learning a new technique. Flute. I think that's enough fluting, don't you? It's about as fluty as I want to get at this point. Any more fluting? I may get carried away with myself. All right, here's the special secret that Mrs. Buddha learned and that I'm gonna share with you from my mom. Usually when you have pie like this and the filling before it sets is very liquid, very wet. It's because it's all liquid except for the pecan halves, right? So how do you prevent the pie crust from getting soggy before the filling sets? How do you do that? You take a tablespoon of flour and a tablespoon of sugar and you mix it around in the bottom of the pie crust. And what happens is that forms a seal between the pie filling and the crust that as it cooks, that tightens up and it protects the crust from the filling. So when you get a bite at the end, you're just gonna have to trust me on this, the bite has a crispy, crunchy crust. So I've got that all evenly distributed. Now I'm gonna do the same thing with the sugar. Lay the sugar in. That's my mom's super secret trick to keeping your pie crust crunchy. And now you have it too. All right, so now I'm gonna take this pie filling and we're just gonna let it do its thing. We're gonna fill up that pie crust. All right, And that's it. So let's go get this thing in the oven. At this point, if you're cooking this on a grill, a big green egg, pellet grill, anything like that, a Traeger, you can set the oven for 350, plop that in there, and you'll be good to go. Been about 35 minutes since we got the pie out of the oven, because you want to let it cool, let it set. Look at that delicious pie. That is some pure goodness about to get inside my belly. So let's get a slice, let's get it on this plate. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a bite right now. All right, people, we just made my mother's pecan pie recipe. My favorite dessert every Thanksgiving when I was growing up. Why did we make it today? Why did we make it inside in the kitchen? It's because I was dealt another curveball and I promised myself you would get a new video from me every Wednesday. Also, as a reminder, I'm trying to teach myself how to cook desserts. I'm not very good at it, so I figured repetition will be the key to success. But here we are. We've got a beautiful pecan pie, derby pie. Why is it a derby pie? Well, we just finished what would have been the Kentucky Derby weekend, the first weekend since 1945 that the Kentucky Derby wasn't held on the first Saturday in May. We are hoping that it will be held Labor Day weekend this September. But this is derby pie because Mrs. Buddha is another inspiration in my life. She's from Louisville, Kentucky. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and a derby pie has chocolate chips in it, and I put a splash of bourbon in it. So it's not really a derby pie. It's not really a pecan pie. It's mostly my mom's recipe. It's 100% awesome. So, if you like what you saw here today, people, please leave me a comment. Hit the subscribe button right there. Let me know what you think. Until we eat again, cook something great for me. Have an excellent night or day.